started. I'll show you some basic game concepts and dive in demoing my first experience with the game. Let's get started. War at Sea has phases within each turn. The phases are initiative roll, sea movement phase, air placement phase, air defense phase, air attack phase, surface attack phase, torpedo attack phase, and then the end of turn and it starts over. During the initiative phase, players roll 2 dice and they add their best flagship bonuses to their roll to determine who goes first and who goes second. The player who wins initiative plays second. During the sea movement phase, players take turns alternating moving their ships according to their stat card movement values. Some cards have special abilities for movement value. Some special abilities even allow you to place the unit anywhere on the map at the beginning of the turn. In the air mission phase, players alternate placing their aircraft. Generally, they place dive bombers first, then another player places their dive bombers, and then subsequently you place your fighters. Players place their fighters last so that the opponent doesn't know where your strike force is going to hit. In this case, the player who won the initiative roll has the upper hand. In the air defense phase, the action begins. Players start attacking other aircraft with their anti-air ability on their stat card. Think of this step as an interceptor fighter approaching other fighters and warding off the attacks. Finally, during the air attack phase, all players' aircraft get to attack ships, planes, submarines, etc. As an example, dive bombers can now make a run on the enemy carriers as long as they were not aborted in the previous phase. Once players' ships are within range of each other, the real action begins. Players take turns attacking each other's surface vessels with the values indicated on the stat cards for main guns, secondary guns, etc. We'll go over resolving attacks more in a little bit. And in the final attack phase, ships and submarines get to use their torpedo attacks against each other. Torpedo attacks are a bit different in that they ignore the armor and vital armor of the enemy ship. Each 6 you roll deals 2 points of damage instead of the regular 1. In the final phase, players return their aircraft to their aircraft carrier bases or to their land bases. Aircraft that were based on land bases originally will get a rearming counter. Aircraft that have rearming counters will skip a turn. And that successfully completes 1 round of turn. Depending on the scenario being played, players can now collect any points they have received during the turn. Objectives collected are typically worth 50 points, and ship values are on each stat card. So the important information in a stat card is, first of all, the point value of the ship you're choosing. Typically, battleships have the highest point values, carriers, cruisers, destroyers, and then other ships and aircraft below that. Next on the list of importance is the armor values and vital armor values, as well as the hit point counters. Next is the type of attacks that that particular card can perform. Generally, ships can do main gunnery attacks, secondary, and in some cases tertiary gunnery attacks, as well as torpedoes and anti-submarine warfare. Aircraft typically have different types of weapons depending on what phase you're going to use them in. It also depends on whether they're a fighter, a bomber, a torpedo bomber, or a patrol bomber. Typically, fighters are used in the air defense phase with using their anti-air abilities in order to knock down aircraft. One last important thing on some stat cards is the initiative value or the flag status value. This value is the value that is added to your dice rolls on the initiative phase. The other item you will see on carrier stat cards is the number of aircraft that carrier can base. If you take a look at each stat card, you'll see a bunch of numbers in a grid. The columns are divided into distance versus what type of weapon you're using. In this example, the Yamato has the ability to throw 18 dice at the range 0. Now, 18 dice is a lot of dice, but Yamato is a big battleship, and it must roll over the armor value in order to do any damage to the enemy vessel. If the number of successful dice rolls is over the critical hull value of the enemy target, it is destroyed. For surface ships, successful rolls are on a 4, 5, or 6. 6 counts as 2 hits.